Today we have Brett Taylor's interview with Rich Jorgenson. Rich speaks of his Vietnam experience and his recent return from attending an honor flight to Washington, D.C.
For Modern U.S. History class, I interviewed Rich Jorgenson about his experiences in Vietnam.
I am Brett Taylor. I am a junior here at Ridgeview High School.
I'm Rich Jorgenson. I'm from Shaler, Iowa.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
It was kind of a combination. I knew the head of the draft board. I lived in Storm Lake at the time, and he told me he was going to draft me next month, so I enlisted. So
How old were you?
I was 18.
And what branch did you choose?
I went into the Navy. I enlisted into the Navy so I could get what I wanted. If you got drafted, you just threw you. I went into the Navy Seabees. I was in the construction battalions. I learned a heavy equipment operator trade in there while I was there.
What was boot camp or your training like?
It was hard, they made you learn military history and all this stuff. Then after the military training, I went to what was called EOA schools, Equipment Operators A School in Port Hueneme, California, for 13 weeks and learned how to run heavy equipment. And then when we got it done there, everybody got orders to Vietnam. So, I mean, you couldn't get out of that. So then we had to go to it was called counterinsurgency training. Basically, it was prisoner of war camp school in Little Creek, Virginia. So they flew us all the way back across the United States to that. When we got done there, then we found out where we were going to be stationed. And I was sent to Da Nang, Republic of Vietnam. It was called Naval Support Activities Da Nang. But I was sent to a detachment. It was in Chu Lai, which was 60 miles south of Da Nang.
What was your specific job or assignment?
While I was there, I had probably 4 jobs. The first, when you first get there, you're just scared because you don't know what's going on for sure. And then we went out and we built a road out in the rice paddies to a landing zone for the Army. We had all our dump trucks and we just pushed dirt out there and made it so they could get out to this landing zone. And then I did that for about 2.5 months. Then I came back and I was assigned to the air station there, the Air Force. Whenever there was a rocket attacked and it hit the runway, I had a vacuum cleaner truck, and I went out and cleaned up all the debris so it didn't ruin the jet engines. And then while they patched the holes in the runway, I was on call 24 hours a day for that. So.
I'm sure your recent trip to the Vietnam War Memorial stirred up a lot of memories. Are there any that specifically stick out in your mind that you could share with me?
Yeah, the best one, we had 3 buses, and we got in the buses, and went in there, and we were met by the D.C. police. We had red light and siren escort. We never stopped for a stop sign in Washington, D.C., and that's dang near impossible. So we went the first monument, we went to the Vietnam Memorial, the Korean, and the Lincoln Memorial was there. They had a monument for the nurses there now. We've got an hour and a half there to walk around all those. That was real interesting. We got done with that, and they gave us about an hour and a half, a little over an hour tour of D.C. That bus never stopped. We went around and saw everything where Congress was at and things, the Smithsonian. I'd been out there once before, and I'd still like to go back out and spend some time again. But and at the end, we got to go to the Air Force Monument. Went around and watched the changing of the guard at the Unknown Soldier. And it was just a moving experience.
Yeah.
When we got home from Vietnam, we were not shunned, I'd say, but no, the war was not a popular thing then. And so, like when we flew back into Omaha, they told us to change into civilian clothes in the airplane, not to get off the airplane in military uniform. When we got out to D.C., there was 300 people waiting to meet us. That was quite a deal. Band, 300 people. We never had any of that when we came home. Everybody should have had that.
How did you stay in touch with your family back home?
We wrote letters at least once a week or maybe twice. And then they had Armed Forces radio station. But if I was talking, then you'd have to say over so the ham radio operator could flip a switch and then they could talk from back there to here. They had to say over when you're there. That was kind of different. But
Is there something that you did for good luck while in Vietnam?
we went out and helped the people out outside the gate. We had a civic action deal. We go out and help the villagers. We helped clean the place up and stuff like that. But the whole time you were over there, you were scared because you and I could be friends today, and then VC could have got a hold of you tonight and said, if you don't do what we say, we're going to kill your family. So you had to really, I mean, I've been friends with you this long, and then tomorrow I see you're trying to shoot us. So
I'm sure you didn't have much downtime, but when you did, how did the guys entertain themselves?
well, we went to I was at Chulai, the most beautiful white sand beaches you've ever seen in your life are right there. Deep blue water. And we wasn't very far from us. We'd go over to the beach, spend a day. We usually got an afternoon, a week off sometimes, or whatever. You go to the beach, or you could, they had basketball. They had all kinds of sports you could play while you were there, too. So.
What can you tell me about your relationships with your superiors and fellow soldiers?
Oh, it was all good. The officers, they all treated us fairly. I mean, we all had a job to do over there, and everybody knew it. So all our guys got along. So, this guy might be doing this today and that tomorrow, but I had that runway job when I was sweeping the runway. Then, if somebody needed help hauling water, we had to haul all our own water because you couldn't. So we hauled potable water to all the barracks and stuff had big. They called them water buffalo tanks out there. They pump them full so everybody had enough for a shower and stuff at night. That's how everybody worked together, really.
Have you stayed in touch with any of them?
Yes. I'd say there was probably 10 of them that were close, and I can pin 4 of them down right now. The other ones have kind of drifted away.
Would you do it again?
I'd go back, yeah. There's a old saying, the price of freedom is never free. And I went, so you guys back here didn't have to know that feeling. So one of the worst times in the service is Christmas. You can't, if you can't get home and then you're stuck on the base or whatever, that's bad. I've done that 1 year. I was stuck, and after that I just figured I was coming home no matter what when I got back. So, but the worst time in the service is Christmas. So, but other than that, I enjoyed my service.
Do you recall the day that your service ended?
Yes. When we got home from Vietnam, we were not shunned, I'd say, but no, the war was not a popular thing then. And so, like when we flew back into Omaha, they told us to change into civilian clothes in the airplane, not to get off the airplane in military uniform. When I got back from Vietnam, I had a little over a year and a half to go in my enlistment. And if I'd had so I re-enlisted to go to, I signed up to go back to Vietnam, but it was right at the end of the war, so I didn't have to go back. So then I ended up serve a year and a half. So I went to, I was stationed at Moffett Field, south of San Francisco, and I got a gravy job then at the end. I was the Undersecretary of Defense Packard's driver. He lived out in Los Altos, California, out in the hills. Whenever he flew from D.C. back here, I picked him up, took him home, or whatever he wanted to do there. I had a pretty good time at the end of my service.
How was your transition back into non-military life?
That was kind of rough. I mean, your mindset changes because you had a bad attitude, not a bad attitude, but you had a self-preservation attitude when you got home. You want to protect yourself, and it took a while to get used to everybody else. It was probably a couple of years after I got back before I could go see a war movie about Vietnam or anything.
What did you do for a career after the war?
I went into heavy equipment operator. I worked for Goberson Smith down Ida Grove, but I worked for another guy down there first. But I spent 33 years. They taught me how to run heavy equipment in the service, and that's what I've been doing ever since. So,
please describe how your military experiences influenced the rest of your life.
Well, you grow up in a hurry, but you just treat everybody with respect. I still call people sir, and stuff like that. It's just everybody had a different attitude. Some of the guys that came back were really messed up. The ones that had to go in the bush all the time. I was fortunate I didn't have to do that.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with me that we haven't covered?
No, you guys are fortunate. You don't have to go. Really.
This concludes my interview with Rich. I would like to thank him for his time and his service.
Thank you, Rich, for helping us better understand the Vietnam experience. Please join us next Monday to listen to Herald Post's interview conducted by Don Moore.